start today's Mr. Ashok Thakur, Secretary, Higher Education, Ministry of Human Resource Development. Professor Peter D'Souza, Interim Director, International Center for Human Development, New Delhi. Mr. Sanjeev Mittal, Joint Secretary of Culture. Fellows, associates, staff, and members of the press. It is a happy occasion for us at the IIAS that the International Center for Human Development is being inaugurated. To use some of the metaphors of nature that I often use, this center, during the time that it was being repaired and looked after by the ASI, was a kind of caterpillar in a cocoon, and today it's going to come out as something more beautiful than the caterpillar it was so far. Many of you wouldn't have even ventured up to this place, I'm sure. Some of the other fellows nearby have been visiting this place quietly and seeing what's going on. And the ASI has done a wonderful job in renovating so much of it, and they have been very supportive. We are particularly happy to have Mr. Ashok Thakur with us here, whom I formally welcome. And he's been kind enough to agree to inaugurate this center. Some of the fellows may not be aware, but the administration knows only too well how supportive he has been to the Institute in a number of ways, in terms of funding, in terms of the support for all the academic programs that we carry out, and particularly on administrative matters. And in the long run, it's gone a long way to help us manage many of the most pressing things that the Institute had to face. And it is only in the fitness of things that he should be the one to inaugurate this center. And I must also mention his special concern for the building in which we are located, and which is so intimately linked to the concept of the Indian Institute of Advanced Studies as Dr. Radhakrishnan visualized it. But for his personal interest and the interest that he took, we might not have been able to get many of the things done in this building. Now the center is going to become active very shortly. There are 6 fellows who will be joining. The press has already mentioned it. 6 fellows who will be joining, 4 from Bhutan, 1 from the Laos People's Democratic Republic, and the 6th one from Cambodia. Accommodation for them has been made ready. Offices are there. After this, maybe you would get a chance to look at the offices that have been prepared for the fellows who will be coming. I request the other fellows not to get too jealous. Their studies too would be, with the kind of support we are getting from the MHRD. It's not very far that we and others too would be getting some very nice, renovated studies. Now, the establishment of the IC4HD, that's the term that's used. So now I'll be using within the IIAS has been and was a matter of discussion at different levels at the institute, in terms of the governing body and others, and which is as it should be. There did exist a point of view that there was something too instrumental about the International Center for Human Development that might not quite blend with the philosophical ethos of the IIS or many of its deeply theoretical engagements. So there was this, a legitimate concern, but there was and is a counter argument to that, that there were important points of overlap between the 2. And perhaps there indeed are, I think. or to put it more appropriately, there should be. At a deeper level, the idea of human development has a moral and ethical content. It has a moral and ethical moorings. But it's the pressure for rapid material growth, and especially in developing countries, that suppresses this aspect of the development debate. It does not mean that the moral dimension has disappeared, or that it can be set aside for the moment, or it's irrelevant for the moment, because moral issues remain deeply embedded in the notion of human development, even when it conveys the impression of resting upon obvious material factors. Because, of course, most of the human development criteria are seen as tangible, visible things that are indicative of what is regarded as development, or further as prosperity. But both development and prosperity, because they are understood as quantifiable concepts, attract economists more. And this is the kind of thing economists are engaged with. But are they ends in themselves? Because this is a question that I put to some of the younger people who accompanied members of the Finance Commission, and we sat together for tea at the mess there. And I said, is development an end in itself? Is prosperity an end in itself? And initially there was a bit of a shock because they felt that it was an end in itself. But I think we need to continually put to them the question, to or for what purpose? Development for what purpose? Prosperity for what purpose? And we also need to confront each of the answers that we receive after asking this question. We need to ask the same question all over again. For what purpose? And what the idea of human development ultimately seeks is something a little more intangible and less quantifiable, actually. Something that in common conversation, if you were to come across, people would say quality of life. Now it means a lot of things, in part, this long-term objective of development and the pursuit of prosperity is explained by Amartya Sen. He uses the words advancing the richness of human life. And not surprisingly, this phrase, richness of human life, gives rise to an entirely new range of questions that are sought to be answered through democracy, through freedom of speech, or religion, expression, cultural diversity, art, music, a whole lot of things. The whole idea of well-being or happiness, as Bhutan does it, the cross-national happiness. So in the long term, and through the extended logic that is inherent in this issue, it would mean exploring the nature of man, the human, and society, conditions that he creates for himself. What does it mean to be human? It's a question that's always hovering at the back of our minds and is repeatedly asked, but answered only partly in many different ways. We know, as we sit around the seminar table, all too often, somewhere deep inside many of the issues that we raise, this is a question that comes up again and again. And there will probably be no definitive answer. But to engage with and to reflect upon this question is also perhaps to be part of this ongoing process that makes us more human. This and other related questions we know that have always been the core area of interest for scholars who are in the Indian Institute of Advanced Studies, and they will continue to remain so. And that is why I think that the International Center for Human Development and many of the concerns that we are engaged in overlap. And the Institute provides that opportunity to enable us to engage with those elements of this center that are core to us, and also be able to take it further. The presence at the Institute of scholars from different countries, especially of the developing countries, would certainly add a new dimension to the already hectic academic activity in the Institute. And I think it would strengthen the position of the Institute in world scholarship. Once again, I welcome Mr. Thakur and other guests and the fellows to this inaugural function. And I'm sure the fellows would be seeing more of this place and the fellows who would be coming shortly and engaging with them. Thank you, and I invite Professor Peter D'Souza to give an introduction about the international.
Mr. Ashok Thakur, Secretary Higher Education, Ministry of Human Resources Development, Professor Chetan Singh, Director, Institute of Advanced Study, Mr. Nikhil, Joint Secretary, Ministry of Culture, Mr. Sarojini Thakur, fellows, associates, and members of the press. I would also like to begin by welcoming Mr. Ashok Thakur to the Institute and thanking him for accepting to inaugurate the new International Center for Human Development. I say this because this is almost the fruition of a long journey. What began as a conversation in one of the small rooms of that gigantic building, Shastri Bhavan, has through several conversations, disputations, now emerged as an International Center for Human Development. It was an initial idea. It was an idea whose contours were fuzzy, but in the process of a sustained dialogue, not just with the ministry, but with the United Nations Development Program, I think the imagination and aspiration of this center has become much clearer. I'm really delighted that the ministry and Mr. Ashok Thakur in particular chose the Indian Institute of Advanced Study to not just house this center. I mean, you may not know, but the ministry asked the Institute of Advanced Study to represent the government of India in the initial cooperation agreement that was signed. So I'm delighted that they asked us to do that because they, in a sense, affirmed their confidence in the Indian Institute of Advanced Study to bring into existence a new global center. When we talk of the International Center for Human Development, what we are signaling, what the government of India is signaling, is that it wants in India to create an institutional space which has a global footprint. And that global footprint must be the basis of an alternative discourse. So the idea of human development has been foregrounded as an idea which the government of India has given full support for, and which, in a sense, is the core idea of the United Nations Development Program. In fact, the idea began when the United Nations Development Program spoke to the minister and said, we want to set up an international center and we want to do it in India. We want to do it in India because India has been in the forefront of developing human development reports. I think this is important to recognize. One of the few countries in the world that has prepared human development reports at the national level, at the state level, and in some of our states even at the district level, and maybe at the city level as well, has been in India. So it was no random choice to locate the center in India and to locate it partly in Shimla and partly in Delhi. In fact, when the ministry asked the Institute of Advanced Study to incubate the center, initially the idea was to begin the process. They saw this as a process of consolidating the institute as a global knowledge center. I think that's very important to recognize. They saw that the Institute of Advanced Study has certain strengths, and in these strengths it would be better to build on these strengths to give it a global presence. And that is why they invited us to incubate the International Center for Human Development. In digression, I'd like you to look at the logo of the center, the IC4HT logo. This is again, I mean, even something as small as a logo took many months of discussion, because we thought it must begin to resemble like the United Nations logo, but each of the colors was deliberately chosen.
there's brown for earth, there's green for forest, there's blue for the seas, and there's orange for fire. So in many ways we wanted to, and incidentally even those colors are the colors of the Indian flag. So even in the choice of the logo, we wanted that message to go across. In a sense that the message that we are both international but deeply supported by the government of India. Now, human development is core to the United Nations Development Program. It's an idea that Professor Amartya Sen and Ragul Haq presented as a way to actually measure development. And at the core of that idea, I mean, if one has to summarize it in a sentence, human development is the expansion of human choices. It's the expansion of choices. It's at the core of the idea of freedom. So it's an important philosophical idea which they were presenting as an alternative way of measuring development. And then to convert an abstract idea into a policy instrument, they produced a set of indicators and a set of measurement tools. Indicators which focus on health, which focus on education, which focus on maternal mortality, child mortality, sanitation, etc., etc. And as you can see, if you've been following the debates in the newspapers over the last months or so, this big debate that's taking place between Amartya Sen and Jagdish Bhagwati is at the core of this idea of human development. Should you have growth before redistribution, or should you have growth with redistribution? Can you have growth with redistribution? So this is an idea that all countries of the developing South have got to confront. And in many ways, our center has that global aspiration. It is going to be the basis for producing the knowledge that governments would require, that civil society would require, that the academic world would require. So what really are the 4 objectives of this center? I think our brochure has been circulated by my colleagues Pallavi and Amruta, and it states very clearly that we have 4 broad goals. The overall ambition of the center is to move from analysis to action. The word action means action in terms of policy making, action in terms of being able to impact government policy making. So one core area is research. We definitely want to create more knowledge about the exercise of development making. We want to provide policy advisory services. We want to strengthen South-South cooperation. And we want to develop a monitoring and evaluation of this exercise. Now, I stress South-South cooperation because I really do want you to appreciate that one of the great ambitions of the Indian Institute of Advanced Studies and now the International Center for Human Development is to begin a knowledge conversation with countries of the Global South. There are transformation experiences that we share. There are transformation paradoxes that we share. There are transformation challenges that we share. What should be the manner in which we distribute our limited resources? And therefore building up a knowledge partnership with countries of the Global South is at the core of the International Center for Human Development. It is not, in many ways, therefore, it's a center which has a kind of understated politics at the heart of it. And you can see this from the activities that we have. Created. We have one of the first things that we will be doing is a fellowship program. We have selected 6 fellows who will be coming to the institute at the end of this month, on the 1st of September, and 4 are from Bhutan, 1 is from Laos, and 1 is from Cambodia. But I must tell you that the invitation for applications went to 24 countries from the Asia-Pacific region. And from these 24 countries, we received 93 applications. And these 93 applications were subjected to a very critical scrutiny, and of which 12 applications were shortlisted and were interviewed through Skype, from which 6 were selected. Now, each of these fellows, the theme for this year is social security. Social security, as you know, has now become one of the big issues for countries of the global south. What kind of, the whole debate in India about rights-based development, health, education, food, etc. These are issues at the heart of social security. So we identified social security as the theme of this year. The second activity that we will be doing is workshops and conferences. Please see that the activities are going to be very similar to the Institute of Advanced Studies programs. We are going to have workshops and conferences. We've already identified 3 that we are going to, that we are in the process of initiating. The first one is with, and this I'm sure certainly members of the press will appreciate. The first one is to celebrate SEWA, Self-Employed Women's Association, which is, they have now been in existence for 40 years. And we want to see SEWA as an organization which has responded to livelihood insecurity of women, particularly the unorganized sector, livelihood insecurity. And through their organization, they've been actually able to give them some livelihood security. And my colleague Pallavi has been in the forefront of conceptualizing this and developing this with SEWA. The second activity we are planning is a roundtable on ways of responding to poverty with Professor Rehman Soban of Bangladesh. He is just produced a report where he's outlined 65 different policy responses to complex questions of poverty across South Asia. This is a South Asia-wide report, and we want to take one of those ideas and see how we can push it forward. We are also wanting to have a conference. I'm saying this because I really want all of us to, in a sense, have a stake in this imagination. So it's not just a sector, an institute somewhere on the top floor of the building that is going to have foreign scholars. And it's in a sense taking forward each of our personal concerns. So the third workshop that we are planning is on violence against women. This has emerged from the crisis of December. But if you notice, after December, there was a similar case took place in South Africa, and something like that took place in Brazil. So we want scholars from Brazil, South Africa, and India to come together and to look at one aspect of this whole phenomenon of violence against women, to look at the law. Because each of these countries, in a sense, has created a legal instrument to respond to this. How do they see the law as one of the effective ways of responding to the widespread violence against women in society? We are planning, and this is very difficult. You see, the institute, the new center aims to occupy a certain niche. There are lots of knowledge-producing institutions in the global south. So what is our special niche? Our niche is to find those areas in the south-south imagination that are under-occupied. So for example, on social security, we are planning to have a conference on, these are at the moment still in the planning stage, so please don't, because producing a global event takes a lot of time. But this is to look at social security for indigenous people. One of the most affected communities in the development process are the indigenous people of the global south. So we want to try and the social security debate has ignored them. The social security debate has talked to people in urban areas, but then the indigenous people have never been part. Now those who are working on the indigenous people say, we don't want to be part of your policy making, we want to be, so there's a deep cultural question. Do we want to be part of we want rights, we don't want welfare. This is one debate. So what do? We need to engage with this debate. The institute is also in the process, and this I say with some degree of pride, is already in the process of giving advice to countries of the Asia Pacific when they are preparing their human development reports. So we've already given advice to about 4 countries in I think Cambodia, Timor-Leste, who are preparing their human development reports. They give us a draft, we respond to that draft, and they take it forward. We have an invitation from Mauritius to partner with their government institution to build up their human development for the training for their bureaucrats. We are next month, in the month of October, organizing a training program for human development practitioners in the Asia Pacific region who will be coming to Delhi on issues of human development. So training, advice, etc. has already been developed, even though we are a very young center. And we are also going to try and develop, take this idea and have it enter universities across the world. So curriculum development is going to be an important part. And like the Shimla Institute, we want to run study weeks and winter schools. So ultimately, each section of society that in a sense needs to make human development a part of their policy making. We hope through this small initiative supported by the UNDP, supported by the government of India, but with a global aspiration, we'll be able to in a sense impact this global discourse on development and make it more human-centric. Make it more human-centric with that ultimate goal that if we are able to produce the knowledge, and that knowledge is able to impact policies, then maybe as a result of our process deepening and widening, we will be able to expand the range of human choices. Thank you.
Dr. Chetan Singh, Acting Director. Professor Peter D'Souza, who was the director of this prestigious institute till a few months back, and now the director of International Center for Human Development. Mr. Sanjeev Litti, who is the Joint Secretary from Ministry of Culture, whom we have invited as a very special invitee. National Fellows, Associates, officers of Indian Institute of Advanced Studies, and dear friends. It is indeed a pleasure for me to be here amongst all of you, to be in my home state. I try to come here as much as possible, but because of the various pressing things, I'm not able to do that much. But today I feel very happy to be in the same old environs and amongst all my dear friends. This center, which has been named in a very trendy way, I see 4H. Sounds like the kind of SMSs I receive from my sons. So I must say it is keeping in trend with the modern ethos and way of thinking. Peter D'Souza has done a very smart move by linking human development to modernity and the lingo of the times. This was actually inaugurated in January this year by none other than Professor Sen. And today it is my pleasure to be inaugurating the Shimla faculty of this IC 4HT. This is an endeavor, a partnership between the UN system and the government of India, represented by my ministry. It may sound as if it is purely an academic kind of a work, but it is much more than that. It is a great opportunity for us to project India's soft power too. So on that, Professor D'Souza had made a brief reference in his talk, but I feel that that is also a very important point which we should look at. But more than that is this argument or this way of thinking that it is not just the rate of growth which matters. It is in fact many other things which figures do not speak, which is important. So therefore, ever since this human development index debate has been going on, starting from Dr. Amartya Sen and Mehboob up their seminal work brought this message to the rest of the world. The government of India was very deeply engaged because we are a democratically elected country, the largest democracy in the world. And for us, pure statistics and the rate of growth, we feel that it doesn't summarize the entire picture of the country. There are a whole lot of other things, the social aspects, the education aspects, which are very, very important. So therefore, Government of India was very keen, and in the Indian Institute of Advanced Studies, we found a very apt partner, and more so the enthusiasm and keenness shown by Professor D'Souza that we today have this center here. Like I said, this is an endeavor between the UN system, represented by UNTP, and the Government of India, represented by my ministry, in which we will work very sincerely to spread this message across, not only to embed it in our own country, but also to the rest of the world. More so to the European countries, more so to the countries which really look forward to India. Whenever I attend any international level conference, especially the countries in Africa, they really look up to India. So I think, without sounding patronizing, I think we should do our duty. So therefore, if we are able to create, I would say, an army of development, human development experts, but if we are able to, over a period of time, have goodwill ambassadors for this concept. And India is the perfect platform. We have the legitimacy, we have the scale. So through that, I think we will be able to go forward and achieve this great goal, which our government also wants to take it further. While doing this, there were a lot of other institutes also, I'd just like to bring it to your information, who wanted to compete for this project. But it is due to the good name which Indian Institute of Advanced Study has, the goodwill it has, and also because of the efforts of Dr. Peter D'Souza, that today this center is in India, and it makes me particularly very proud that it is in my home state, which is Himachal. So, I think there will be a lot of other fallouts from this collaboration. Number one would be the fellows of the institute would gain tremendously by the exposure to this project. We are aware that part of the project is going to be located in Delhi, part of it is going to be here. But I think the interaction and the exposure which our fellows will have here, the regular fellows will have here, especially interacting with the foreign fellows who will be selected. I think that would be a real added advantage. It will be also a big advantage for my people from my brotherhood, for example, the people who are engaged in policy making and people who are engaged in implementation of the scheme. I'm sure through the workshops, seminars, colloquium, etc., which several of them will be held both here and Delhi or elsewhere in the country or even abroad, our people who are engaged in this aspect will get tremendous kind of boost in it. Another thing which I would like to, which I expect from this project is that there should be certain kind of, even within our own country, there are a whole lot of Human Development Index reports published by several state governments. A lot of talk went on, there's a lot of excitement, but towards the end it didn't really come up to much. Every state government had its own indicators, probably the indicators which suited them. There was no uniform kind of an indicator. So with the result that the concept of comparability disappeared completely. We had again, yet and again, chosen a path which is easy. I think time has come that through this project which we have in collaboration with UNDP, we should take some harder look. Perhaps it's symptomatic of the way we look at it, our attitude. About 2-3 months back, I had a workshop of universities, which was done in collaboration with Times Higher Education and Thomson Reuters. And there again, I was surprised to see that all the time, our academicians, vice chancellors of universities, they said that, oh, this is not applicable to us. We are of a completely different, we have different problems. This is absolutely not relevant for us. So I think this kind of attitude we can't have any longer. If we are part of a globalized world, then we have to play the same set of games the rest of the world is playing. So therefore, I think these indices which we develop through our IC4HD should be uniform and should have a similar yardstick running across. And there should be no excuses. If we have faltered in certain aspect, then we have faltered. Let us admit it. Let us work towards resolving it rather than finding an alibi. So I think this is a short message which came to me in the morning, and I'm very sure that this aspect will be taken care of. Lastly, about this building, I think this building is such a great monument, a heritage property, which each time I visit here, I go back with a great sense of guilt. I had slight experience of restoring the 80 theatre that you see today, and I feel very resolved that we must do something about this building. In the ministry, I have earmarked about 50 crore rupees for restoration of this building. Since this though we had to kind of fight with our finance wing, because they said that your work is not to restore buildings, your work is to teach and propagate education and stuff like that. But I think if we have taken this building, it is our duty, our responsibility to take good care of it. If we don't do it, it is a reflection of our state of mind about our state of values. So therefore, with the help of the director, conference, we'll be having a detailed meeting on it. And I would like to assure all of you that in a few years, we have a much better building. In the end, I once again thank both Peter as well as Jason, both of them dear friends of mine, for inviting me. And I'm sure that whatever this project intends to achieve will fully be achieved in the able hands of Peter D'Souza, and very supporting and a very positive acting director we have in Chetan Singh. Thank you very much.
It's too soon. Respected Ashok Thakur ji,
Professor Chetan Singh, Director of the Institute, Professor D'Souza, Interim Director of the IC PhD, Shri Mittal, Joint Secretary, Institute of Culture, Fellows, Associates, colleagues, and friends from the media. It's indeed a proud privilege for me to propose hearty vote of thanks on behalf of the Indian Institute of Advanced Study. First and foremost, I would like to express my deep sense of gratitude to Shri Ashok Thakur, Secretary, Higher Education, Government of India, for his kind acceptance to inaugurate the IC PhD and deliver inaugural address. Sir, we are grateful to you for extending us all kind of support and help, and your concern to restore and conserve this building. Your association with the Institute program today will greatly inspire us, and with your kind support, the Institute will certainly gain further height and it will further strengthen. I heartily thank you, sir. Nothing can be achieved alone, and a function like this would not have been possible without the support, encouragement, and guidance from various government agencies and people. In establishing IC PhD in Shimla, Professor D'Souza played a major role and contributed immensely. He has tirelessly worked to make IC PhD operational. I extend my special thanks to Professor D'Souza for his exceptional contributions. I would like to thank Professor Chetan Singh, Director, for his constant encouragement, which eventually led to this event today. I am sure that under his leadership, the Institute will move further towards the goals set by his predecessors, and IC PhD will emerge as a major think tank on issues that are most relevant today in modern society. On maintenance side, I need to underline the efforts of Shri Mittal, Joint Secretary, Minister of Culture, for his concern and support for restoration of this heritage building. I would like to extend my hearty thanks to sir. My thanks also goes to all the fellows, national fellows, Thakur fellows and associates for having taken their time out and to be with us for this function today. I thank our media partners for their cooperation and coverage of this program. And I also would like to thank the two service agencies, CPWD and ASI, for their contribution and maintenance of this building and repair work. I mean, there was a lot of pressure for them to make this area ready for this inauguration. So I would like to place in the record for their sincere effort and the kind of work which they have undertaken to make this center ready. And finally, my sincere gratitude goes to all my staff members, especially the State Division and IC University Delhi unit for excellent job done by them. Without their support, this function would not have been grand success. I once again thank you all. Thank you very much. Media can interact. If you have any questions, in 5 minutes we can have a question and answers. And after that, we have arranged a tea and lunch for everyone. So I request everyone to join for tea and lunch, which is arranged in the office mess. Thank you very much.
Meeting after this. We have to rush to a meeting. So,
You want to have separate? If you have any questions here, please ask, or else you want to have separate
one
meeting.
thing about the buildings, what are the next plans that the institute has submitted and what you are looking at these days?
We are going to have this in the next Pataya. After this meeting, we will have another meeting. Basically, the concept is as follows. You see, the expert advice is going to come from ASI because they are the custodians as far as the heritage part is concerned. Execution will be done by CPWD. There will be a steering committee at Delhi, and there will be one local under the director, and one committee which will be monitored at my level or at the level of the minister also. So this is going to be very high powered kind of thing, so that constant pressure, this is actually a coordination issue. Funds have been located. We have, like I told you, we have earmarked 50 crore rupees for this. We have also got a study done by one of the heritage, what is his name? Ava Narayan Lamba. She has done a study. So that study has to be seen by ASI, by the present director, and you will see how it works out in today's meeting. But the aspects which need to be covered immediately, for example, roofing is the most important thing. Because if water percolates, जब तक सिर पे टोपी पक्की नहीं होगी और फिर बाकी सब बेकार है. Head should be kept, the whole building should be kept dry. And secondly, seepage issues also. Foundation issues. If the water seeps into it, then the foundation. These two are the conservation is the top priority. Thereafter, the heritage and the finer aspects. Pardon?
Renovation.
And renovation. Renovation, etc. would be the second thing. This is broadly the way in which we tend to proceed.
Any time gap, time period you have fixed for completion of the plan?
Well, first let us start it. I feel that this kind of a project should get over in about 2 years' time. So we will take out the actionable points priority-wise, and then start working on it. Whatever the report of that expert is, that cannot just be followed blindly. You have to see what is your priority. Depending upon that, we will proceed. And there will be a local committee at the director's level, and there will be a committee at the MHRD level, and we'll be working very closely with the Ministry of Culture, because ASI has to be kept on board because they are the custodians as per the law, and at the same time CPWD is the executive body. So this in a nutshell is the approach.
So one question about the indices that you refer, that this institute aims at developing a uniform indices. Is it you're looking at a global platform, or it's a national or a statewide something?
I would not say a uniform thing, but by and large that comparability should be there. You cannot just have totally different indicators which do not add up to anything. At the national level, it should add up somewhere. No, you should be able to compare. If Bihar is looking at something, then the way it has reached to that conclusion should be comparable, and the methodology, etc., should be the same as for Himachal or from some other states. So there should be comparability, so that we know that which state is doing better, which state is not doing better. Otherwise, you can have a glossy report which doesn't say much. Yes, please.
One of the things we want to do is every year organize in Shimla a study week on indicators, and particularly to train young scholars, those who are doing their PhD or post-PhD, to basically to be able to look at the data and see how that data can be translated into development indicators. This we want to make, that is the strength of the Shimla Institute. Every year we have a school and we have a study week, so we want to now expand that to even development. You may also wish to look at some of the restoration that the institute has undertaken. Please look at some of the offices, because that is what we hope the future will look like when this project is completed.
Thank you.